Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the Atmas character of our world around us, and today I would like to prove you using one example, but very, I would say, influential one. I would like to prove the concept that ideas have consequences. In 1760s, so one would say in the great epoch, great in quotation on my channel, epoch Enlightenment age, in my opinion, actually the age very often of the abuse of reason and abuse of emotions. I will prove it. There was in 1760s, as I said, such work written like Social Contract, this is English translation of the title, by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's always good to know a little bit biographical details of the author to understand better the context of his or her writings. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was not French by citizenship. He belonged to very privileged and not so numerous group of people, citizens of Geneva. That's why he was French speaking, and he was the son of the clockmaker who went to work to a good contract to Istanbul. And at the end of the day, there were some family tragedies. He was raised not by his parents and so on. And he was also a little bit talented, especially he had some talents to music. For instance, he was later one of the authors of the content of famous Enlightenment Age encyclopedia, but not so many people know that majority of content he wrote was the content related to music and musical instruments, because his way of living when he grew up, he had two ways of getting money to cover his needs: either from time to time giving music lessons, or making good to a little bit older or to lonely ladies or to disappointed married women whose husbands, due to other reasons, didn't have enough time for them, but they were, I would say, affluent enough to pay for such entertainment that young Jean-Jacques Rousseau was able to provide them. Okay, and the only regular job he had was the job of the secretary of one attorney. It lasted for approximately 2 years, and later he hated this job so much. Once he left it, he wrote the book about Nobel Wildman, the horribly bad concept that really gives us ideological hiccup even today, because he wrote that we need to come back to nature, that living in wild environment makes us noble, civilization spoiled us, but wilderness only takes everything what's noble from us, and he really hated normal job, and he came back to his old way of getting money for living, so giving music lessons and doing good to some ladies who were able to afford it. So this is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and he wrote another book, much more, I would say, profoundly affecting our life. This book was entitled Social Contract. Of course, the concept presented in this book is completely disconnected from the world, because he assumes that at one point people gathered on one meadow, grassland, and decided that they establish a state. And in contrast to Edmund Burke theory of establishing the state, according to Mr. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, everything what we have, even our life and our freedom, all of our properties, belong to the he was using term that can be translated into English like folk. Later, revolutionaries in France, about 30 years later, transformed this term folk into nation. That's why the term modern nation was created. Surprisingly, nationalism has left origins, on the left spectrum of politics. Later, in the first half of 20th century, such geniuses like Charles Maurras or Maurice Barrès used nationalism because religion was fading out and was not uniting people, used nationalism to cement people on the more right side of spectrum. But these are later times. And this concept of nation that can decide about the life and property of individual, because a nation, according to Mr. Rousseau, folk, so group of people defined that made a social contract according to him, that people made a social contract and subjected to this, can decide about property, about life and everything. And if they want to expel some people, they can expel. If they want to exterminate some group of people, they can exterminate. If they want to take something away from some group of people, they can. So we see that these are the ideological bases for the worst forms of totalitarianism. That's why revolutionaries like Mr. Robespierre, Danton, Saint-Just were really fans of social contract of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and they knew this work by heart. And actually, Rousseau gave fundaments for both things: nationalist thinking, and the worst thing, much worse, because nationalism doesn't have to be bad. Much worse thing, gave ideologically justified fundaments for the worst intervention of the state and government into our life. So he gave fundaments, theoretical and ideological fundaments, for creation of totalitarian state. And this is how lazy dreamer and completely spoiled guy who wrote a lot of about music in Enlightenment Age French Encyclopedia could poison our life for next several hundred years. Ideas have consequences. All the best. Have a nice day. Bye.